Hello, everyone. My name is Shravani Pandey, and I'm the Event Success Manager for NuAIg. Before we move ahead, can I quickly get a yes in the chat window? If you can hear me loud and clear, this will also tell me whether your chat window is active. Nice. Yes. Thank you. So, after speaking at many national conferences and state chapters, listening to clients and CXOs, we felt there was this common resistance to AI adoption. And surprisingly, it was not operational or technology issue. In today's webinar, Building an AI Culture, we will be unlocking this. Before we start, let me introduce NuAIg. We are an advisory and technology implementation firm that works exclusively in senior living. Below to the right, you can see some of our clients. This is not our exhaustive list. We have also been partners to many national organizations, and our case studies are regularly published with them. Before I introduce our speaker, few housekeeping notes. Feel free to drop in your questions in the chat at any time. We will take those at the end of the session. If you experience any audio or video lag, a quick refresh usually fixes it. And lastly, sit back and enjoy the session. Now, let me introduce you to today's speaker, Ashish Garg. He leads AI assessments in NuAIg. He has more than half a decade of experience advising Fortune 500 companies and healthcare organizations. He is an expert in converting complex technical problems into simple, actionable solutions. Over to you, Ashish.
Thank you so much, Ravni, for the introduction. Hello, everyone. Warm welcome and very good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining in. Uh, right, I want to begin with when we talk about artificial intelligence today, the conversation usually shifts immediately to the tools, the software, the algorithms, and the platforms. Now, if you talk to any senior living operators who are actually on ground, you quickly realize something else. The success with technology has little to do with software and everything to do with people. Today, we're going to look at why building an AI-ready organization is fundamentally a leadership and a culture challenge, and how you can prepare your teams for histographic demographic shift ahead. And with that, let's dive in. Right. Now, I want all of you to focus on this graph. We are standing at a historic crossroad. It is projected that by 2034, the total population of senior adults will surpass the total population of children under the age of 17. Now, think about this for the moment. Every single year, more than 4.1 million Americans are turning 65. It is a pace that is setting entirely new records. We can clearly look that the growth of this sector is going to be exponential, unprecedented. But as the care needs deepen, the tools supporting our frontline workers have to evolve too. We cannot support a historic influx of residents using yesterday's manual workflows. And this is exactly where technology and specifically AI enter the picture. Now, if you're running a facility or managing a community today, you know that leaders and teams are stretched incredibly thin. And let's be honest, this strain is structural and it's not seasonal. Today, senior living deals with all kind of problems, and we can all agree to that. Um, and this does compromise on resident outcomes directly or indirectly. This can be rising staffing shortages, operational costs, admin burdens, caregivers spending more time on systems rather than doing the value-added work. To make matters worse, this results in a massive communication overload. Someone is answering emails, calls, follow-ups, consuming valuable time that can be given to residents. And resident and families, they expect faster, more personalized services. And this is surely the way no community wants to see themselves operating. Now, this brings us to a very fundamental point. Why now? Why is it the right time to start thinking about transforming your organization through AI? We already know a major inflection point is coming. The silver tsunami isn't a vague feature, isn't a vague future anymore. It has officially arrived. We already know to keep pace with this demand, you would need additional a whopping 806,000 senior housing units by 2030, which is massive if you think about it. Now, it is not a volume game. The residents arriving at your doors tomorrow are fundamentally very different from those who are today or yesterday. These residents will be digitally literate, financially sophisticated, and they are accustomed to consumer grade experiences. Communities that will continue to operate on their legacy pen and paper processes can risk falling behind, not due to bad intentions, but because consumer expectations have shifted permanently. The gap between consumer demand and organizational readiness is widening, and that is why it is the best time to act. Now, I want to capture everyone's attention to this slide and the statement. Um, the challenge facing aging services organization is not simply a staffing challenge or a technology challenge. It is an operational and cultural adaptability challenge. Now, let me be incredibly clear. AI is not here to replace human centered work, human centered care. You cannot automate empathy. The real opportunity of AI is using it to strip away your operational friction, your operational bottlenecks, so your teams can reduce looking time at screens and start looking more to the people they care for. Perfect. Now let's get real for the moment. Let's look at the elephant in the room. When you read about AI in the news, it always sounds like an engineering problem or a software issue. But I want to share a reality check. Organizations almost never fail with AI because the technology itself is bad. They fail because the human infrastructure wasn't ready. Think about it. We've all seen expensive software rollouts, stall in our organizations before. And why does that happen? It happens because there is no visible executive sponsor actively steering the ship. It happens because our frontline teams are quite fearful, worrying that automation, is just a corporate buzzword for job loss. It happens because workflows are unclear. We buy a tool and expect our staff to use it without mapping how exactly their daily routine changes. Now, adopting AI isn't an IT project you delegate to a tech vendor. It is a fundamental leadership and cultural adaptation challenge. And to solve that challenge, we have to stop looking at software licenses and start looking at how do we prepare our entire ecosystem within. Which brings us directly to the question, how do we actually do that? How do we build an organization that is structurally ready to adapt? I want to, kind of reinforce this idea again because this is very important. The organizations succeeding today in AI are not necessarily the ones with the biggest IT budgets or the most technical talent. They are the ones building a leadership team and a culture that is fundamentally willing to adapt. Culture is your foundation. Okay, that brings us to the main showstopper. Why, what does an AI ready organization actually look like? It is built on five core pillars. The first, the five pillars are leadership alignment, workforce readiness, operational readiness, data readiness, and governance. Now, if you remove or weaken any single one of these pillars, the entire structure becomes unstable. Over the next few minutes, I'll spend more time and to break down these five pillars one by one. All right, let's look at our very first pillar, leadership alignment. And I call this bedrock of the entire framework. But before that, let's be practical about how our sector is structured today. Many senior living facilities that and aging services that I have personally spoken to do not have an internal IT department or a dedicated CIO or a technology manager. And honestly, even if you do have a technology manager, that person is usually completely consumed in day-to-day activities, buying software licenses, fixing up the Wi-Fi, just trying to keep the lights on. They do not have the time or the capacity to map out, any strategic AI roadmap. And that is why leadership alignment is extremely important. It requires you to create crystal clear shared vision where everyone from the C-suite down to the frontline floor supervisors understand exactly why AI matters to your core mission and what success looks like. It requires visible, active executive sponsorship. This means having a leader, whether it can be CEO, COO, CFO, who doesn't just sign the vendor check, but he or she actively steps up to own the initiative, carve out dedicated time and aggressively remove the corporate roadblocks that stall the change. Next slide. Yeah. Uh, Pillar number two is workforce readiness and change management. Now, when you introduce an executive sponsorship, let's say you have introduced an executive sponsorship in the team and say that, we are going to embark on AI readiness journey. The very first question your department heads or any team member would ask, how much time is required to do this? Or already completely buried under my day-to-day work. So your CFO can be busy, your director of nursing is busy, your operational managers are stretched thin. This cannot just be an unmanaged task thrown onto their plates, right? It has to be treated as a dedicated project. To bridge this gap, you need organizational readiness alongside workforce readiness. Leadership must carve out intentional time, even just an hour a day, and explicitly identify internal champions. Those internal champion can be a project lead or a small tactical PMO team to spearhead the initiative across the spectrum. So if your internal team doesn't have the capacity or technical equipment to build this plan alone, you don't guess your way through it. You bring in a partner like us, work jointly with your internal lead together, and work on an assessment framework that identifies your operational bottlenecks, staff pain points, and chart out strategic 3 or 4 year roadmap along with strategic solutions for the way forward. Now, let's move on to our third pillar, operational readiness. I need to be incredibly blunt here, but AI is a powerful accelerator. It is not a magic wand. If you take highly sophisticated AI tool and lay it on top of a broken, chaotic operational processes, all you achieve is, accelerated chaos, I call it. So AI only creates true value when it seamlessly fit into workflows that are defined from step one to step last. Therefore, the readiness is very important and it begins with process mapping. So before you even write a single line of code or sign a contract, you must explicitly define and document your current operational workflows. You have to sit down with your teams, map out processes from start to finish, whether it's resident intake, it can be shift handoffs, it can be billing cycles. And why is that? Because mapping your workflows is the only way to accurately point out the hidden bottlenecks and structural inefficiencies that are, quietly draining your staff hours every day. Once you see the workflow, you hit the second operational hurdle, system integration. You need to conduct an exhaustive audit to also identify your EHR, your CRM, or your scheduling, etc. All of these, do they talk to each other or not? And with my experience, I've seen a lot of senior living providers, almost 90% of them, their systems are not integrated. They don't talk to each other. Finally, we come to operational readiness, and this requires outcome tracking. Now, you cannot manage what you do not measure. So before a single tool goes live, you must define exact KPIs, the key performance indicators. So are you trying to reduce the time it takes to process a new admission? Are you trying to reduce are you trying to minimize medication documentation error, or are you trying to speed up family communication follow-up? You need to establish these KPIs uh, early and build simple dashboards so that your frontline staff will actually look at and directly tie this with the technology metrics so that your operational outcomes evolves. So I leave you with the ultimate defining question for this pillar. Are your current workflows actually structured to support AI automation today, or do they need to completely redesigned first? So let's fix the process before we deploy the technology. Pillar number 4 is data readiness. It's also a very fundamental readiness. And again, a fundamental rule of technology is AI will run fantastically as long as the data it runs on is clean and refined. And the reality is, most providers don't actually know what data they have. You must know exactly what data you collect, where it lives, and whether it is structured cleanly or scattered across all over the places, be it binders, be it Excels, spreadsheets, etc. Data quality is the number one reason AI pilots fail because if our data is not strong, if our data is not clean, refined, AI system cannot work. Now, if you look at a data maturity ladder on the right-hand side of the slide, most senior living providers find themselves on level one or level two. They are running on fragmented data, silos, or basic EHR reporting. And I can I have spoken with many clients, and all I see that either they are in level one or level two. So you're not alone. To get to the level 4, where your data is clean, labeled, and AI ready at scale, it requires an intentional roadmap, a strategy for data. The fifth and final pillar is governance and trust, and it is a no-brainer. Without operational guardrails, AI adoption creates massive adoption liability. Governance turns your good intention into safe, compliant healthcare practices. You can clearly define oversight and accountability, who owns an AI-driven decision, and what that output influences clinical or financial choices. Trust is built before you go live, and not after a severe compliance or privacy incident. So governance is quite literally your AI insurance policy. Amazing. Now, once we have established that foundation of culture, leadership, and process readiness, something beautiful happens. Technology finally becomes the ultimate enabler. Tools and automation actually work because the human infrastructure is already ready, it is sorted. Let's look at what transformation looks like on the front lines. Right. So let's look at what a care delivery actually happens or caregiver impact today versus with AI. So right now, a caregiver's day is defined by documentation overload, hours spent filling duplicate forms, constant phone and bell interruptions, logging into 4 different software systems just to check a single update. It ultimately leads to less time with residents. Now, let's look at AI-enabled alternative. Imagine there's a technology which captures whatever is being talked with. It is a microphone that safely listens a caregiver interaction with a resident or automatically writes that clinical notes, cutting the administrative time by 50%. Imagine, real-time proactive alerts sent to a single unified dashboard. This result is a total shift. You have less admin and more caregiving. Staff don't rely on tribal knowledge. They don't rely on memory to go back, write down the notes in EMR or any other system. They they get back what they love, and technology does its own work. So I want to so when you look at that vision, it is easy to feel overwhelmed. But I want you to give some peace of mind, right? You do not have to achieve enterprise-wide digital transformation on day one, right? We advise all our clients to use a highly disciplined framework: crawl, walk, run. So you start by crawling. You look at basic productivity tools, low-risk pilots, or automating simple board reporting, let's say automating an Excel. Once your team builds confidence, you move to the next stage, which is walking. You start thinking about workflows, you start redesigning your workflows, you start integrating software so that they start speaking to each other. And then once that is done, once your foundation is solid, you go back, you go to the next phase, which is the run phase. So it is when you start doing advanced level you start implementing advanced level technologies here. You start predictive operations, you start automation. And the rule of thumb here is simple: start with just one workflow, one bottleneck, and one administrative pain point. Right. Now, how does this look like in practice? So when you apply this crawl, walk, run mindset across your departments, the practical opportunities are incredibly clear. For leadership and operation, it looks like data audit as a first stage, that is crawl. Then moving to a real-time KPI dashboard where they start tracking each and every KPI. They start uh, diagnosing the department's health. This is walk. And then they finally start implementing preventive decision supports. This is run. They reach to advanced level. Similarly, if I take an example of HR and workforce, standardizing and auditing the documentation is the first step, the crawl stage. Thinking about automating the documentation uploads is again a walk stage. You move to a level two. And the advanced stage would be to think about predictive modeling, to think about implementing AI in shortlisting your resumes. So this is where we keep ourselves realistic. We start by taking small baby steps and then go on to highly achievable quick wins. At the end of the day, we want to remember a vital truth. AI transformation is not a single project. It is a gradual operational evolution driven by leadership, culture, and trust. You cannot just flip a switch and become an AI ready community overnight. It's a continuous journey of aligning your people, fixing your processes, and earning trust. Right. So, as we wrap up and conclude our presentation today, I want to leave you with one final overriding truth. Your very first step toward AI adoption is not going out and purchasing a software license. It is building the organizational readiness to actually handle it. Now, if you try to skip the readiness phase and straight up jumping buying tools or buying any software, and taking a this actually creates a massive financial and operational risk. The true transformation starts by looking inward and identifying exactly where operational disconnected systems and manual bottlenecks are draining your company's potential today. And this is exactly where we come in. At NuAIg, we partner with communities like you to guide you through pre-adoption phase. We help facilitate these tough executive alignments, conversations. We bring all of your departments together, identify their pain points, identify high impact pilots, conduct deep operational assessments of your current workflows and software integrations. So let's work together to ensure that, your culture, your people, and your processes are completely ready to ride the next wave, which is coming. With that, I hand it over to my colleague, Shravani.
So I hope the webinar was insightful. This is a self-reflection questionnaire through which you can understand your AI readiness. And of course, this presentation will be shared with you. So you can go through this after you get it. And I think we should open the floor for Q&A. Thank you. Yes. Questions? Right. So question, Ashish, can you tell us more about NuAIG's AI assessments?
Okay. That's a great question and an important one. So we partner with, so as I already explained, we partner with communities like you and different senior living communities, and we come in as a strategic advisors who understand, your operational architecture very well. Plus, we also understand the technology that is required for that transformation. So AI assessment, in a nutshell, is a comprehensive engagement where we speak with your executives, your senior executives, your leadership, your department heads, and we try to identify operational bottlenecks, specific pain points, and try to brainstorm solutions that could help bring the transformation. And at the end of it, we give you a very detailed, structured report which clearly highlights the processes, pain points, and the solution that we discussed. Along with it, we also do an impact assessment and we chart out an implementation roadmap strategy for you. This can be a 3-year implementation or 4-year implementation strategy where you go back and discuss with your team members on how your transformation journey looks like from day one to, let's say, end of the day for year three.
There's one more question, Ashish. When you said we need a champion for this initiative, what would that person's role would actually be like?
Okay. Um, that's a great question again. So, when I say you need an internal champion, that doesn't necessarily mean the person should be an IT expert, right? That's not the whole intent. The champion can fundamentally be a process leader and a cultural bridge inside your facility. And so think of their role as divided into three core responsibilities. They are the ones who sit down with the internal teams to identify process bottlenecks, plus to identify opportunities. Or they can sit with partner like us who can help them identify the operational bottlenecks and help them build solutions and roadmap on top of it. Second, they are the ones who builds trust among their peers. Third, they can also act as feedback loops. They monitor the pilot program once the implementation start and ensure the AI is successfully adopted in the daily workflows.
Ashish, one more question. Do you also provide support as it relates to developing AI policies as a part of the assessment?
Yes, we do. And that's again a baked in thing within our assessment reports, but it is like an optional uh, offering from our end.
Right. Any other question? Anyone? You can. Yeah. Right. I think, Brett, we have answered this question. Um, so with that, I think we have all the questions answered. Yes. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Ashish.
That's a pleasure. Thank you.